I'm conscious that Heather was going to convince us of the importance of the user experience. I thought I'd bring a couple of physical products along to pass them around so you had some touch dimension in this little presentation. So I've been around the industry since the 70s. I'm involved in Open Gear very peripherally now, or as a shareholder of an active agent. It's the people who are in the Open Gear shirts who take any credit for what's happening there. So I entered the IT industry, really probably in about 1980 I joined a company in Brisbane called Hartley Computers, which was at that stage a really successful software company selling accounting software to Coopers and Pricewaterhouse, and had this market locked. They were in the USA, and they're actually in the UK. They were just perfect, except that it was an era of hardware. It was a very successful software company, and David's Heady, the winners in the market that everyone looked at, the IT market. Which is also IBM, all the disruptors with the DGs and DECs and Wangs, it was all about hardware. So David got in his head that what he had to be doing, a really successful company, is actually embed his application software on top of a language structure which we wrote, on top of an operating system which we wrote, on top of proprietary hardware which we developed, and then genericise that so we created not just specific application solutions for accounting, but for general business. So I joined sort of midway through that stream, and it was just so much fun to play with ported Unix to processes, and it was just, the business went broke, unfortunately. But we were momentarily Australia's biggest hardware exporter for a couple of years. It was just a really zoomy thing. And one of the good things about the going broke process is I was able to start my first startup in a hardware business with three of the engineers I worked with there, Stallion Technologies, and this is one of the early boards just to date the technology that we were playing with. This is when you could wire wrap and connect pins on a plate through a whole connection on a processor, and we used to talk about board, not killer and mega and giga and terra. It was just really, yes, I could understand it back then. It was really simple stuff. So. But we actually started the business. I guess, so what I'd like to share with you, as I said, I think I came from that hardware background where that was the industry we lived in. We've been through pervasively a period now where software's domain, Microsoft likes for a long time. Now it's all as a service, the prominence in our industry, that tends to be the thought process. And what I see a lot of people talk about now is this inflection we're coming to where hardware is beginning to take not necessarily preeminent, but taking a significant, see if this works, a significant play again. And part of it, as I said, when you look back when I first entered the industry, the big companies around in 1980, they were petrochemical and car companies and those sort of, oh, okay, hit, okay. But even if you look back 10 years, this is Wikipedia, Q2, top public companies by market cap in the world. Right? And 10 years ago, they were still largely product company. Microsoft 10 years ago was the only high-tech company in the list. Right? And again, mainly product, no service, one software company, not services companies in that business. This is Q2 2017. 8 out of the 10, I think, are technology companies. They're all SaaS or software businesses. This is the world we currently live in now. And I think what I think we're going to experience is an inflection that this event, sometime we're going to start seeing again, emergence of some more product and hardware companies again. And it's driven not so much by the technology, it's driven by a couple of things, the biotech, the IoT, the changes in our whole topology of our industry is inflecting, and hardware is playing a critical role now because it lives at the edge of the device and stuff. I was going to prove this to you by going and looking at Google Trends, because you can trust Wikipedia and you can trust Google Trends. That's and I was going to say, well, look, if you look at all the number of people who've done searches on hardware startups versus software versus as a service, and actually I did, and that's as a service over the last 10 years, so it's still actually ramping up. So, and this is hardware startup, so people haven't got this yet, that we are about to. I'm sharing with you that we are, but this probably is more important. That's IoT as a search, and there's other, if you look at it, look at all exciting startup things around now. They're in this IoT space, they're in the nano robotics, there's just the whole zoomy thing, and they've often got a hardware dimension to them. So. And I think that presents a really exciting opportunity for yes.
So I think a point you should raise is that Apple, Alphabet and Microsoft and Amazon, all of those guys have got hardware products.
Well, they do, but they're not a significant thing. Apple, sorry, the exception on that one's Apple. I meant there. That's by far the exception's Apple. They're fully integrated. That's what David Hartley could have been, right? In terms of fully integrated. He just didn't have the Steve fuzzy weak piece. So I think the startup world, I said, has really changed. And again, I'd just like to comment on a couple of observations on the differences between the software and the hardware world. I think that, and maybe do that in the context of of when we started the first business. And I'll just exemplify this with a couple of experiences I've had with startups. So I've been involved with about 20 startups directly as an investor, a C-level exec, something, mainly around Brisbane, the majority of them in hardware, and a whole bunch peripherally, just through River City Labs and Angels and the like. And my experience is where we live now is just totally different to what it was like 10 years ago, let alone 20 years ago when I was early in the piece. And again, when we started Stallion, so we imported PCs from Hong Kong and Taiwan, and that was our cash, that was our funder, because there was no VC dollars to get to fund the business. And we looked to see what we're going to do to make a lot of money. That was the, and we started 2 projects. One of them was a fax switch, a little device which actually answered the telephone line, listened to the call coming in, worked out to listen to the which is the fax. This is again back in the early 80s, and it would have switched the call through to the fax line. Otherwise, it switched it through to the telephone line, and everyone had a fax machine at that stage, which was just the face. And the cost of a telephone line was really, this was really going to be a really successful product, we thought. But we went into manufacturing, we went into this sort of thing. So we partnered with some people in Hong Kong who were importing PCs, and we said, well, here's the technology, you take it to market. And again, that didn't gel as it should have, and we didn't make much money out of it. But it was a good experience. And then we also did another product at the same time in parallel. Our other world-beating product was going to be IBM introduced in Australia the JX, which is a little PC Junior type PC computer. And they'd done it in Japan. It was really successful there. They did Australia. It was their first Western implementation of this thing. I thought, first mover advantage. We'll go in there and do multi-function cards and all this stuff. And we did a swag. And again, they took the market in Australia, didn't succeed, so they folded it. And so that little piece of that. If I was doing that same business again today, doing studying right now, I'd do a couple of things different. I think one is we'd actually take those projects out and we'd put them on Kickstarter. We'd put it on Indiegogo. We'd actually go out to the market and we wouldn't develop the processor around we'd use an Arduino. We'd actually go and grab the bits and all the building blocks are out there to do it. But importantly, I said we'd go to the crowdsourcing and the crowd to validate the market. And before we did that though, and this is the key thing I think, if anyone's contemplating a startup, if you don't take it through an accelerator program round, there's just so many out there. They're so low cost, they're no cost if you go to iLabs and things at UQ or River City Labs, they're 6% and you get 60 grand. If you don't take it through that and go through the validation that your idea was actually worthwhile, then that's a really, I think, negligent thing in this day and age for starting up a business. Again, if we had gone through our IBM JX program and taken that through an accelerator, when they went through the value prop analysis thing, it's stupid. No, 4 engineers in Australia aren't going to come up with a sustainable growth business based on doing generic product for a commodity market. That's just, we've got no sustainable competitive advantage. The business model is just flawed. As opposed to the project we did with the fax switch, they would have directed us to Kickstarter. And if you go to the Kickstarter now they announced a few months ago, they've actually got a new stream in their program specifically for hardware programs. And Indiegogo's got exactly the same thing they announced last year. If you go to them with a hardware project, and if they think pre-posting, if they think your project is worth doing, they'll take you through a process where they're partnering with one with Avnet, one with Arrow to make sure you've got all the supply side of your components and you can scale your business. They've got manufacturing, they've got design tools to validate this thing, because both of those forums, they've had so many projects come through that really did well and did too well at the beginning, and the engineers and the people who designed the product actually weren't able to produce the first batch, let alone scale the business up, and the whole thing's failed. It's been really embarrassing. I went to the other reason I'm confident that we're going through this inflection point, I said I went to a River City Labs River pitch this afternoon, and they had 9 companies talking. This is for Series A's funding, so they're all going between $1 million and $5 million funding. These are mid-stage, they've been through their seed funding. And 3 of them are hardware companies of the 9 companies pitching. One of them's a really cool thing that's just come out of iLab called Ordera, I think they're called. These are guys, and I saw them when they're going through the iLab process initially, couple of doctors and engineers who have actually had a project. They've got a set of headphones. You can go through and profile your ear hearing patterns, and it automatically adjusts the signal in your ear so it actually perfectly balances it for your specific needs. And so they've got, I think these guys are going to make a bucket of money, and they're already geared up for the volume manufacturing in China for this thing. They plugged into the chains in the USA. And that was one of the 3 projects there. Another one was a little company, I took this one from their sample, that's doing some IoT sensing on machines, just doing some vibration sensing, transmitting the data back, big data analysis of predictive maintenance and stuff. It's just a really simple technology.
So this is called CTO School.
Yes.
And when I see slides like this, which is quite a good slide,
Yeah.
this bit on the right,
Yes.
One thing just jumped out at me, and I know what my answer would be, but I'm curious what your answer would be.
Yeah.
Why, for a hardware startup, is the CTO a software guy?
Where did it say that?
Under founding team, second section down.
One.
Okay. Let me step back.
Yep.
I didn't write that. I was going to say.
I know,
I did read it. I did read
I can make
it.
a case for that, right?
Okay, yeah.
Because all hardware guys
Yeah,
end up being
yeah,
software at
yeah,
some
yeah,
level.
yeah.
But I'm curious what your answer is
Okay.
in your
And
experience.
I said the reason for that was really there's a bunch of articles. This is a blog that was written a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
It actually goes through from USA VC experience. And a lot of my thinking is here's what the funders think in terms of how they look at the model now and they're looking at hardware differently.
Yeah.
I think today's hardware, it's not about physical appliance and things. It's smart or it's not.
Yeah, right.
There's very little hardware out there now that doesn't actually have embedded software in it or is actually some data processing. And a lot more than, it's not necessarily hardware, it's just an access point, which is where the routers and Cisco hardware is where this is stuff is, AI is going to end up in here. This is where big data lives down the track. It doesn't ever get transmitted back up the pipe because we don't have the pipes that are carried. You've got to grab it inside a car. What comes out in terms of data transfer is going to be bugger all. All the smarts are going to go inside. And that's what I think you need, is someone who can architect something that can actually take all of these streams. That's not hardware, that's complex software.
Yeah.
Mesh them and then analyse them. And that's the smarts, I think, that go in all of the hardware devices out there. So, but there's some fundamental difference, I said, and that's why that it's just really important, I think, if you're doing a hardware involved with a hardware process, you think of it a little bit differently in terms of, the startup world is all about fake it, then make it. You go along and do your proof of concept and your minimum viable product, you take it out, then you get some user feedback. Once you validate it, then you go along and you do it. And usually you do it pretty well because you've got a validation. But at some stage, there's often inflections and you're going to change. But with hardware, and you've shipped out your first 500 or 1,000 pieces, the cost of bringing them back and the reputation, it's just so different. The funding of inventory, the lead times, it's just got just different parameters. I think we need to start relearning. I think we've learnt to be software and services, CTO, and our thought processes of that. And I think our industry is inflecting. A lot of our opportunities are in this new space.
So I guess the point I'd say is
Yeah, sure.
move, like what's the Facebook motto, move fast and break stuff. And they've changed that now, but that was what it was for a long time. It doesn't work with hardware.
Yeah.
You can't do that with hardware.
Well, it doesn't work something.
I got the hardware prototype, the guys at West End, in terms of the 3D prototyping, there's a lot of things you can do a lot faster.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
But at the time you hit Kickstarter, that's one of the rules like they've got with Kickstarter and Go and things like that. Is one of the things they've changed with their hardware processes is you actually have to have a built prototype that works. Because a lot of the time when they were having the initial Kickstarters, like a software project, it's like, this is the vision we have, this is what we want to build, and it's going to be amazing, and everyone buys into that, and it doesn't get delivered. Like games is a great example. There's been a lot of games that have gone out, and they just haven't managed to deliver. And it was that for hardware, they were doing hardware stuff that broke the law of physics. Like you simply can't build that hardware. And so that was one of the changes they made, and why they built these systems is because they went, well, obviously you can't change the laws of physics. You've got to actually have a prototype that works before you can come to us. And so what these accelerators are for is as part of the validation.
And I think
it seems to think we can.
And it seems that it's step beyond just doing the prototype. It says 9% of the Kickstarter projects that get fully funded don't deliver it.
Yeah.
And a big percentage of those multi-million-dollar funds for things fail because they can't they can do a prototype, and they can do 10 or 20 or 50. They can't even do the first 1,000. There's a different thing because there's prototyping and being able to deliver in any moderate volume is a very different world. So which is why I like these Aldera guys. They've actually extended their thing on Kickstarter. They're currently $2.99 for the headphones. Their list price is I'm going to go buy one after listening to their pitch. It's just really good. And but again, they got 500,000. They targeted 200. They got $500,000 in a Kickstarter project. So it's a good valid thing. And they said they've got the manufacturing piece, so they've got confidence. I'm really annoyed I didn't get a chance to put money into it. So that's the right. I think the other one is much faster. I think that's the other reality now, is that because there's all these accelerator programs and all these things out there to get people running fast, the failure rate now is just it's much easier to start. At OpenGear, we've opened a little small engineering spin thing in Silicon Valley. It's a plug and play. We started a year ago, a year and a half with one person there. We've got 3 or 4, 5, 7. Yeah. So we've moved from one desk to 2 to 3. I remember from previous businesses, you moved, you had to change offices and re-sign leases, and the facilities now to grow are just really good, and everyone's plugging into that. Right? The catch is the failure rate. This is a thing, again, a blog from last month, on these are businesses which have been seed funded. How many of them get their second? They're actually progressed to Series A. This is what these guys are pitching today. And the percentage which are actually getting through the gate rather than failing at the gate, which is what this is. That's sort of failing before the gate. You didn't get the seed funding. It's ramping up. So you've got to be out there, prove it fast, take it to market fast. Second, interesting. This is a microphone. So there's another project that I invested in a few years ago, a company called, a business called Dev Audio. It's a local guy from Cyro, his PhD in, what it's got inside it is a bunch of directional microphones and a couple of omnidirectionals. And he's got the smarts to actually go along and actually focus on who's speaking at a given time, identify that speaker, condition all the noise signals coming in so you get the best possible reception for that signal. That was his thing. And the market he thought was great technology, find someone to license it, probably someone who works in sales services, the legal firms, accounting, people who actually record everything, want to be able to go through a tag, who spoke. It came through an incubator thing down the Gold Coast, and they were all ready to go. And I got involved. We took it we decided what we really should be doing is rather than doing a technology sell, let's productise it, get a Skype interface so you can tag people, give control of meetings and all this sort of stuff, and let's go and make some noise of it. And maybe, but again, it was a one-man show, his first startup, he wasn't going to run a business. We needed to get someone to buy us, that was the play. So took it to Macworld, we finally got someone who bought it over here, they're an American company, got an operation here. He's paid off his house, he's got his retirement fund, he's good, the outcome was really good. And I still keep in contact, he's been there 3 years now, his non-competes are over, he might have a second startup. And this one we could do, and this one I could do, and if I was doing the same thing again, I would do very differently. And this is the difference, I think, in terms of, I took this accelerator model and the environment changing. Now, if you're in a hardware startup world, in Brisbane, we've got a little hardware incubator thing being set up in West End where you can do your proof of concept prototyping and stuff. But one of the big changes around there's a crowd over in the States that, it's MIT. They actually do a survey of the top accelerators and incubators around the world, and they actually go and rate them as the platinum, the Y Combinators and the like. And then they go and look at the varying level. They look in terms of who gets the funding, what's their market cap, how happy are they with the services and stuff, and then tangible outcomes. But the big change in last year is the new entrants that are coming into this gold category. Are companies that now, they aren't horizontal accelerators like Y Combinators, they're all vertical. They're either vertical by market segment. There's a whole bunch of IoT accelerators starting up, like the Melbourne IoT Centre. That's just there's another one here, Unearth, the example of that. There's the crowd over in Perth that started a couple of years ago, an accelerator focused totally on the mining industry. And it's actually funded by Rio and BHP and the guys, and their model is that they actually find, here's the problem we have in our work situation, we'll pay you to find a solution. They then go and run hackathons. And now the hackathon, they then get, you've probably maybe participated in those events they've had. So they've had a couple of moderately successful outcomes, and they've just started up in Brisbane. They just located the technology precinct, met with the guys that are running it yesterday. I listened to they've got half a dozen firms there, I listened to their pitches, and again, a couple of them had hardware. One of them, someone wearing little, it's Canary something is a company, but they're wearing little sensors that miners wear and workers wear underground so they can sense the health of the worker and flag them, again, preventatively, flagging before they have events. But again, the difference is rather than the River City Lab generic incubator that's got some SaaS service, a little biotech, an e-commerce-y thing, these are now focused on particular domains. And there's a whole other batch that started originally, the first one was a company that started in Shenzhen, it's got an office in Singapore, is this Hacks. And again, there's a whole bunch of hardware-specific incubators. And if I was now Vian came to me again with these Dev Audio things, I'd say, listen, let's go to China. Let's actually plug into these guys so we can actually build a business based on the technology. Because they're the core of technology, which I think could have been really, really good. We could have made a whole, create a little industry out of here, but missed it. So. And I'm happy to take any questions. And I'm going fast because I'm very conscious of the time of night. I said I sort of wear multiple hats and I've got multiple emails. One of them is a Open Gear, even though I didn't wear my Open Gear shirt. I was conscious too. It's a company that I was involved in initially funding or co-funding, but really got involved in the management of it in its early phase. I mean, it's really, I think, I don't know if Ken or Toby have had a chance to talk here at all, but I think it's just something that, as a business, it's the best that I've ever been involved with, that I've had a direct involvement with in terms of our professionalism. Right now, we've got a little market niche that we adopt this out-of-band thing, and we actually are the market leaders. And you look at our customer lists, they're just real tier one guys that I've never, they're on our website because I can say them, I think.
That one isn't.
That one isn't. And except for that one, which I didn't say, Netflix. Okay. Sorry, I didn't say that. Referring to.
We can edit that out.
But we've just got tier one customers, and which I said for an Australian company is pretty good to get to that level. So it's a real challenge. And more importantly, I think we're at a point now, we're actually the market leader in the little segment we play. And more importantly, we're now looking at the next generation opportunities to extend this business and grow into some new growth areas. And we're doing that by actually going out and talking to these C-level architecty people in these tier one companies and actually understanding what their needs, testing our value prop with them, and also doing it with the analysts. I'm actually doing these things really, this is sort of the agile, the way I actually talk to your customer before you write a code, and it's actually really, really good. Now, again, when we started this business, we didn't do that at all. Okay? This is when I was running the business initially, it was originally seed funded. The business was based on doing a totally disruptive play. And we were going to go throughout there and we're going to do an open source. A couple of guys came to me as a funder at that stage essentially and said, here's an opportunity to do an open source, OKVM, open source hardware and open source software, disruptive play. We're going to go into a market that's $800 million wide. We're going to get bought out within 2 years and we're going to be really, really annoy these guys. I thought, oh, this sounds like fun. And I put open source streak in the bones. I thought open source hardware is something we really should be doing. This is 12 years ago,
This was Snapgear?
No, this is OpenGear. This is
Yeah, all right.
This is OpenGear. This is how we started the OpenGear business.
I thought there was a name change.
No, Snapgear was a different business. I didn't.
Right.
Snapgear did VPN appliances for.
Right.
But it was also disruptive.
And it was a different one. Yeah. But it wasn't
annoying.
yeah, sorry.
Your email address for OpenGear, is there a typo with your surname?
Ah, yes, there is. Yes.
I'm going to go back to the office and make an alias for you.
You guys are designers.
Which is why I'm not involved operationally in anything. I used to be C-level, you go from CDO, chairman, now just shareholder. I sit the back and I leave them alone. So, but again, it was a business that we started with good intention, but not good intention. I think it had good prospects of being successful. But if we had taken it through a more rigorous process, you shouldn't start a business with the intention of being a disruptor and getting exit. You should start a business with the intention of building a business and going and creating value that's got sustenance, and that's really important that you go beyond that. It's not a project, and most of the business proposals you get as an investor person really aren't businesses. They're projects. They don't scale. They don't have. They may have an outcome if you're lucky, but they're really not valid business propositions. So, and it's really important in hardware because of the costs. In software you can afford to play and fail, and hardware the costs are so much higher that you really need to thought that through a bit more.
I think if you're prepared to pivot, you can go in with a half-assed idea and come out with something good.
And again, because we've had some success in previous businesses, instead of going out and validating our open source hardware thing, we developed this OKVM product. We have these things. We took stands at trade shows in the States right next to the guys we thought would buy them. I went up to see them, their CEOs and presidents like, we're disrupting, they're going to kill yours. You should do something about this. And no one bought me that product, and we did. And because we'd had success, I was able to write an IM that made it sound good. I was able to get $500,000 in funding so we could actually do this. After a year, we realised that was really stupid. We wasted our money. Let's go back, refund the business, totally change the business plan, which is a business now that does consults with outbound management, that it's selling and the like. And so we're lucky. It was really two businesses. The first one that I was looking up, it failed really badly, which again, why I'm out the back now and don't do anything else. And take credit for the successes. So, anyway, that was sort of the overview I just want to give. I do think the world is changing, that don't it's always changed, it's stupid. That there is actually opportunities to do things in the hardware sense, and we've got enough talent coming out of our colleges and stuff, and we're close enough to markets here to actually have some substantial hardware events, particularly in verticals like these Unearth guys are doing in mining and ag tech. And so I talked to some guys, some VCs now that are focused totally on finding Australian technology they can take into China, because we've got technical credibility into ag sciences and some particular market segments. And these guys got a lot of money, and they're China-based, and they're just looking for opportunities to come from here. So I think it is lots of sweet space. Questions?
Yeah, $1 million. Chris?
What do you think is more important to get sorted first? Can you sell it or can you build it?
Well, again, I guess.
Validating your business or validating your technology, or do you see a difference?
No, so I think you should be putting yourself. That's why I'm really strong on these hardware accelerator things. Is I think you need to have that as just part of your. The validation process is like a 12-week thing. You haven't spent any dollars in this accelerator process. It's really while you're still thinking, should I quit my job or should I? It's that phase. If you spend that in one of those programs, then you can go through and solve both of those. And more importantly of any of those is there really a market for it? Is this a solution looking for a problem, which is the 90%? But I think if you plug into the right environment, and it's a bit hard in Brisbane because we don't have a lot of volume hardware experience. We've got a few, but it isn't hard now to pop on a plane and go and spend a couple of months in China, or they've got an office in San Francisco, and there's a bunch of these hardware accelerators starting. And so I think that if you're in the right environment, that environment is coming. Eventually we'll have one down here, Sydney, Melbourne, or Brisbane.
My question is a lot like Chris's, because this idea that I'm trying to get to prototype right now, that's what I'm doing before. The big question in my mind is not, can I get it funded? The question in my mind is, can I hit my price points in production? And that's the tricky bit for me, and I don't know yet.
And so again, I'm not certain whether it's something like this is your child. It's something that potentially has community appeal. I'd contemplate doing that as a Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and they both do have programs with. They said they give notionally $500,000 worth of tool access, and they validate whether they think. And part of that validation process is what the cost of manufacturing is.
I'd love to learn more about that.
Okay, I'll send you some. Okay.
So there's a really good book called, I just looked it up because I read it and I told Bob about it, but I'm not sure I was actually sending the link to it, which I was talking about. It was called The Hardware Hacker, Adventures in Hardware and Making and Breaking Hardware by Andrew Huang. So that guy's name's Andrew Huang. So he's the guy who he initially broke, his claim to fame was he broke the encryption on the original Xbox. But then he went and started a bunch of hardware startups, and he's a Singaporean American. And as part of that, he wrote some really interesting things about actually for startup companies building hardware. So one of his views is you've got to go to Shenzhen. You've got to understand where they actually make hardware. You've got to understand how they build this stuff, to understand what sort of price points and what you've got to do for your factory to understand that you're going to get the quality you require out. You don't understand, like if you might have this really sort of this case design might be really hard to make. You don't understand that sort of stuff necessarily. And it's hard, like a lot of companies will have a hardware designer, mechanical engineer and things like that. And as a lot of us are developers here, you don't have that experience. But talking to those people, a lot of it is giving experience and understanding of how this sort of stuff works, so you can kind of get a bit of an intuition at least to try and validate what you're doing. So, I mean, one thing that at OpenGear we do is we build equipment for business. And so we're not building equipment for consumers. Consumer business is a much harder market to get in because you've got to be, the price point is much more important than business. If you've got a business solution that works for someone, as long as you're a little bit cheaper than the incumbent, you're going to sell, and you can do the job, and they believe you can do the job, you're going to sell people. But for consumer, like, it's much more price sensitive. And he was building consumer gear, so, yeah.
Well, you don't have to go to China. You can also go locally to say, like, industrial designers, obviously, let them help you, like, partner with them.
Yeah.
They will have the expertise.
Company that I'm working with now is based here in Brisbane. They're an industrial designer. They have an office in Hong Kong. They have an office in some other places. Yeah, they have, their Hong Kong team has production engineers that work with people in London.
Yeah, that's right.
That's very
Yeah. He said, the first business Australian, one of the things we bought was our prototype. I think we bought a surface mount line. It was still part of my stupidity that you should do everything yourself. And I got involved with setting up Oz Electronics, a manufacturing facility up in Brisbane. And we really have in Australia the capacity to prototype. We need to do that again for the fast flick, but we need to have that done in a way that's linked through to the volume production, cost-effective production that you're doing. And most of the industrial designers now have done that. This isn't a local shop operation anymore. You've got to be meshed into a global network.
Yeah, one of the things he talks about in the book is he's based in Silicon Valley, and it was a local design firm. That was also it was in Ireland. They were an Irish company, but they were really hooked in to Shenzhen sort of thing. So they had, yes, you can do prototyping through us, but we're also geared all towards your volume manufacturing, which is because when you're volume manufacturing, if it's something that you don't have big margins on, you do it in China.
There's no more questions, I can finish my beer.
Well, you mentioned an accelerator at West End. Is that Victor Vicario's one?
Yes,
or is that
yes,
another?
yeah. And I said, and it's more, it's not into the volume production thing, it is, that's what I talked about, it's the fake it, and the 3D prototyping and the proof of thing, and not just fake it, doing your brochures, it's the presentation layer. It's really important, it's what how you validate what you've got.
I understand they've secured a venue in
Yes.
Brunswick Street. Just
And they got some government funding, yeah, that's right. No, they're becoming part of the infrastructure. It's
Is
really,
that Vector Innovations?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called? Vector Innovations?
yes, that was a couple, yes. Yeah, and that's good. That's a really interesting, really good talker. He's been here. So he's actually a QT, he's a lawyer. But he's forgivable. He's actually really good. Really cool guy. I think there's me sneaking off of there.